Have you ever wondered why some people seem to bend money to their will, while others spend their entire lives chasing it, working harder every year yet feeling further away from freedom? Not because they are smarter, not because they are luckier, but because they understand something most people never stop long enough to see: that money, especially online money, obeys inner laws before external systems. The internet is not chaotic. It only appears chaotic to undisciplined minds. Beneath the noise, beneath the trends, beneath the constant movement, there is order. And that order rewards one thing above all else: clarity sustained over time. Most people never give it time. They jump, they panic, they chase, and in doing so, they train themselves to remain poor in a world designed to reward patience. Online earning is not about doing more. It is about doing less, better, longer. It is about removing emotional urgency from decision-making. The moment desperation enters your strategy, clarity exits. The moment you chase money emotionally, money begins to evade you. This is not mysticism. This is psychology. Every platform is a mirror. Every algorithm is a reflection. They do not respond to need. They respond to consistency. They respond to structure. They respond to value delivered without emotional noise. When you understand this, the internet stops feeling overwhelming and starts feeling predictable. Most people fail online because they are internally fragmented. One day they are motivated. The next day they are tired. One week they are disciplined. The next week they disappear. The market does not reward inconsistency. It punishes it quietly, slowly, and without mercy. Not by dramatic failure, but by stagnation. Financial growth online is slow at first because you are building internal infrastructure, not just external systems. You are training focus. You are strengthening patience. You are learning to act without emotional reward. This phase feels empty. It feels pointless. And that is exactly why most people quit here. They mistake silence for failure. But silence is where power accumulates. The ones who win understand that boredom is not an enemy, it is a signal that you are no longer being entertained and are now being tested. Tested on whether you can continue without novelty, whether you can execute without excitement, whether you can trust compounding without proof. Online earning is attracted to people who do not chase outcomes, but who obsess over process. The process becomes ritual. The ritual becomes identity. The identity becomes leverage, and leverage, once built, works even when you are tired. This is why the calm ones win, the emotionally controlled, the internally disciplined, the ones who do not announce their plans, do not rush their systems, do not seek validation. They move slowly, deliberately, and with frightening consistency. By the time the world notices them, it is already too late to compete. You must understand this deeply. Online earning is not a race against others. It is a war against your own inconsistency, against distraction, against the urge to quit when progress is invisible. Every time you resist that urge, you gain ground no one can take from you. The internet does not reward genius, it rewards endurance. And endurance is not loud, it does not feel heroic, it feels repetitive, quiet, almost boring. But beneath that boredom, something irreversible is forming: momentum. And once momentum exists, money follows naturally, predictably, inevitably. This is the beginning of that understanding. At some point, if you stay long enough in this space, you begin to notice a strange shift. The noise that once overwhelmed you starts to fade. The opinions of others lose their grip. The urgency to copy, compare, and chase begins to dissolve. What replaces it is something far more dangerous and far more powerful: stillness with direction. This is where real online earners are separated from eternal beginners. Most people confuse activity with progress. They post more, learn more, try more, yet earn nothing meaningful. Why? Because their activities are scattered, their focus leaks, their energy is divided among too many directions, too many identities, too many unfinished systems. The internet does not reward motion, it rewards coherent motion. Money flows toward clarity. When your mind is fragmented, your systems will be fragmented. When your attention jumps, your income jumps, then disappears. This is why emotional regulation is not optional in online earning, it is foundational. The person who cannot control impulses cannot build compounding systems. They will always abandon what is just beginning to work. There is a phase you must pass through that feels deeply uncomfortable. It is the phase where you commit to one path long enough for doubt to fully surface. Doubt does not appear when you are distracted, it appears when you focus. And when it appears, it will test you relentlessly. It will ask if you are wasting time. It will whisper that others are ahead. It will tempt you to restart, rebrand, reinvent, and escape. This is the trap. Restarting feels productive, but it resets momentum to zero. Reinvention feels intelligent, but it often masks fear of endurance. The disciplined mind learns to refine without abandoning, to improve without escaping, to stay long enough for compounding to activate. Online earning is delayed gratification weaponized. The systems that eventually generate freedom are boring at first, repetitive, unimpressive. They require showing up when nothing happens. They require publishing when no one responds. They require building when revenue is flat. This is not a flaw of the system, it is the filter. It exists to remove those who are not built for patience. The market is always watching behavior, not intention. Every day you show up reinforces your identity as a builder. Every day you disappear reinforces your identity as a dabbler. Identity compounds faster than income. Once you become someone who shows up without negotiation, income has no choice but to follow. This is why mindset talk without structure is useless, and structure without mindset collapses. You need both, a calm, disciplined inner state paired with a simple, repeatable external system. Complexity is not sophistication. Simplicity sustained over time is power. Look closely at the people who actually earn online at scale. They are not frantic, they are not emotional, they are not constantly pivoting. They are methodical, predictable, almost boring in their consistency. That boredom is not stagnation, it is dominance. They understand something most never grasp. Attention is a muscle. If you train it to endure boredom, it will endure growth. If you train it to crave novelty, it will collapse under responsibility. Online earning gives you freedom, but only after it proves you can handle structure without supervision. This is where self-mastery becomes financial leverage. When you no longer need excitement to act, when you no longer need validation to continue, when you no longer panic at slow progress, you become dangerous in the best way. You outlast trends, you outgrow algorithms, you survive downturns, you compound while others reset. And here is the quiet truth that changes everything. Most people quit right before compounding begins, right before traction, right before clarity, right before the system starts paying them back. Not because it didn't work, but because it didn't work fast enough for their emotions. You are not building for speed, you are building for inevitability. The internet rewards people who respect time, structure, and repetition. It punishes those who demand immediate proof. If you can stay when it's boring, you will not need luck when it gets competitive. This is the threshold. On one side is endless learning, restarting, and frustration. On the other is quiet repetition, internal order, and compounding freedom. The difference is not talent, it is self-control sustained over time. There is a moment, subtle but decisive, when you stop asking whether this will work and start asking whether you will remain consistent long enough for it to work. This is the pivot point. This is where ambition matures into discipline. Until this moment, you are experimenting. After this moment, you are building. Online earning rewards builders, not explorers. Explorers are always excited, always learning, always starting. Builders are quiet. They repeat the same actions daily with minor refinements, not because it feels inspiring, but because it is structurally sound.
Builders understand something explorers avoid. Repetition is not stagnation, it is refinement. The human mind resists repetition because repetition removes the illusion of novelty, and without novelty, the ego feels exposed. There is nothing to hide behind, no new plan to blame, no new idea to distract from the real question. Can you do the same simple thing again tomorrow with the same level of care? This is why discipline feels heavy at first. It is not the work that is heavy, it is the confrontation with yourself. Online income grows when internal resistance drops, when action becomes automatic, when you no longer debate whether to show up, when execution becomes ritual rather than decision. This is when systems begin to work for you instead of against you. Most people try to earn money online while negotiating with their mood.
They work when they feel inspired, stop when they feel tired, pivot when they feel bored. They are unknowingly training instability. The market reflects that instability back as inconsistent income. Stability within creates stability without. This is why emotional neutrality is a superpower, not excitement, not passion, calm execution. The ability to act without drama, to measure progress without panic, to improve without self-criticism. The calm mind sees clearly. The reactive mind chases shadows. You must become boring to become powerful. Boring means predictable execution. Predictable execution creates trust. Trust compounds into leverage. Audiences trust consistency. Algorithms trust consistency. Systems reward consistency. Only humans romanticize chaos. And here is the paradox. Once consistency is mastered, creativity becomes sharper, not duller. Because creativity without discipline is noise, but creativity applied to a stable system becomes innovation that lasts. Online earning is not about escaping structure. It is about choosing your structure. You either submit to discipline voluntarily, or you submit to financial pressure involuntarily. One grants freedom, the other consumes it. There is no third option. When you choose your structure, you decide when you work, how you work, and what you build. When you avoid structure, the world decides for you. Deadlines, bosses, bills, anxiety. Freedom is not the absence of rules. It is alignment with rules that serve you. The moment you accept this, resistance fades. You stop trying to hack your way out of effort. You stop searching for motivation. You stop asking how to make it easier. You ask better questions. How do I make this repeatable, scalable, and emotion-proof? Emotion-proof systems are the holy grail of online earning. A system that only works when you feel good is not a system. It is a gamble. A system that works when you are tired, bored, doubtful, or uninspired is a machine. Machines compound, gambles exhaust. This is why the early phase feels mechanical. You are training yourself to become reliable. Reliability is rare. Reliability is valuable. Reliability gets paid. And when you become reliable to yourself, the external world responds. Income does not explode first, identity does. You start seeing yourself differently. You trust your word. You respect your own commitments. You stop abandoning plans midway. This internal shift is subtle but irreversible. From here on, momentum becomes self-sustaining. You no longer need external motivation. You do not need hype. You do not need validation. You work because it is what you do now, and that identity, the one who executes calmly, consistently, without drama, is the true asset. Money is a side effect. Online earning begins as effort, becomes habit, and ends as leverage. Most people never reach leverage because they quit while it is still effort. Stay. Stay when it is slow. Stay when it is boring. Stay when no one is watching.
Because the systems that eventually free you are being built right now in silence through repetition that feels ordinary but compounds into something extraordinary. This is not about speed, it is about permanence. And permanence belongs to those who can endure repetition without losing clarity. There comes a stage where effort begins to feel different, not lighter, not easier, but cleaner. The friction that once drained you starts to fade, not because the work disappeared, but because resistance has been trained out of your system. You are no longer fighting yourself, and when that internal war ends, progress accelerates quietly. This is the birth of leverage. Leverage is not a trick. It is not automation alone. It is not scale by itself. Leverage is what happens when past discipline starts working in the present, when yesterday's consistency reduces today's effort, when systems remember what emotions forget. Most people want leverage without the phase that creates it. They want freedom without structure, income without repetition, results without boredom. But leverage is earned after you prove you can operate without excitement. Online earning rewards those who respect time. Time is not your enemy. Impatience is. Every meaningful system online, content, audience, trust, reputation, distribution, grows slower than emotion wants and faster than doubt predicts. The tragedy is that doubt speaks louder in the early stages, while results speak softly. Only later do the voices switch. The disciplined stay long enough to hear the results speak. At this stage, you stop asking, "What should I try next?" and start asking, "What should I remove?" Remove distractions, remove excess platforms, remove unnecessary complexity, remove emotional decision-making. Subtraction sharpens leverage. Simple systems scale, complicated ones collapse. You realize that doing fewer things consistently beats doing many things occasionally. One channel, one offer, one message, one rhythm executed relentlessly outperforms scattered ambition every time. This is why calm focus feels dangerous to those addicted to novelty. The internet will tempt you constantly to restart. New trends, new tools, new promises. Most of them aren't wrong, they're just mistimed. They pull you away before compounding finishes its work. Compounding is fragile early and unstoppable later. This is the phase where patience becomes non-negotiable. You must learn to let time work for you instead of fighting it. Rushing a system kills it. Abandoning it starves it. Refining it feeds it. Refinement is the mark of maturity. You begin to see patterns others miss. You notice which actions move numbers and which just feel productive. You stop confusing busyness with progress. You measure less emotionally and more structurally. Calm replaces urgency. Precision replaces chaos. This is when the internet stops feeling random. Algorithms reward predictability. Audiences reward reliability. Markets reward consistency. Only humans expect success to arrive dramatically. Your income starts to stabilize before it grows. Stability is the first sign of real progress. It means the system is holding. It means momentum is forming. Growth comes later. Most people quit right after instability, right before stability. Do not be one of them. This stage requires a different kind of strength, not the strength to push harder, but the strength to not interfere, to let systems breathe, to allow momentum to mature, to resist the urge to sabotage progress by overreacting. Control your hands, control your mouth, control your impulses. Let the work speak. Online earning becomes powerful when it no longer depends on your mood, when execution happens whether you feel confident or uncertain, when systems run even when enthusiasm dips. That is freedom beginning to form, quietly, invisibly. Freedom is not sudden. Freedom is gradual alignment.
And alignment comes from repetition, not revelation. You are no longer chasing money. You are building engines. Engines don't get excited. They run. They compound. They convert fuel into motion over time. This is the mindset shift that separates temporary earners from permanent ones. Temporary earners spike and crash. Permanent earners build and sustain. You now understand that money online is not something you make. It is something that emerges when attention, discipline, patience, and structure align. And when it emerges, it stays, because it is rooted in behavior, not hype. Stay here. Stay focused. Stay boring. Because boring sustained long enough becomes unstoppable. There is a moment that arrives quietly, almost without ceremony, when quitting no longer feels like an option. Not because things are perfect, not because the income has reached its peak, but because something deeper has locked into place: identity. You are no longer someone trying to earn online. You are someone who builds online. And builders do not ask whether they will continue. They only ask how they will refine. This shift is subtle, but it is permanent. Before this point, effort feels like sacrifice. After this point, effort feels like alignment. You are no longer forcing yourself forward. You are simply behaving in accordance with who you have become. This is the most powerful leverage of all, because identity does not require motivation. It requires only consistency. Online earning becomes inevitable the moment it stops being optional in your self-image. You stop fantasizing about outcomes
And start respecting process. You stop needing reassurance. You stop asking for permission. You stop comparing timelines. Comparison loses power when your path feels internally complete. The noise fades because you are no longer searching, you are executing. This is why most people never reach this stage. They keep their identity flexible so they can escape discomfort. They want success, but they also want the option to quit without consequence. The disciplined mind closes that escape route deliberately. Not with force, with commitment. Commitment is not emotional, it is structural. It is the decision to keep showing up even when enthusiasm is gone, even when results are delayed, even when doubt is loud. Once commitment is made, energy stops leaking, focus consolidates, momentum deepens. You begin to feel grounded. The internet no longer pulls you in 1,000 directions. Trends become background noise. Opinions lose weight. You see clearly what matters for your system and what does not. This clarity is earned. It cannot be taught. It emerges only after sustained repetition. At this stage, money changes meaning. It is no longer something you chase. It is something you measure, a signal, feedback, a byproduct of how well your system is aligned. When revenue dips, you do not panic, you analyze. When it rises, you do not celebrate excessively, you stabilize. Emotional neutrality protects momentum. This is how systems survive long term. You stop overreacting. Overreaction is expensive. It destroys rhythm. It interrupts compounding. Calm adjustments outperform emotional pivots every time. The internet rewards those who can stay steady while others swing wildly. This is the quiet advantage. You also notice that time feels different now. Days no longer blur into chaos. Work sessions feel intentional. Rest feels earned. Progress feels cumulative. You can trace today's results back to actions taken weeks or months ago. This awareness reinforces patience. Patience is no longer something you try to have, it is something you operate from. Online earning stops feeling fragile. You are no longer afraid that one bad day will destroy everything. You have redundancy, you have systems, you have habits that recover automatically. This is what people mean when they talk about sustainability, but rarely understand. Sustainability is behavioral. At this level, growth becomes quieter but stronger. You improve conversion slightly. You refine messaging subtly. You deepen trust gradually. None of it looks dramatic.
all of it compounds. This is where most outsiders lose interest, and that is a good thing. Fewer eyes means fewer distractions, fewer opinions, fewer temptations to perform instead of build. You are no longer performing. You are constructing something that can last without you needing to constantly push it. That is the real promise of online earning, not passive income myths, but earned leverage. Leverage that comes from showing up so consistently that systems learn your rhythm. And here's the final realization before everything changes permanently. You were never behind. You were early, just untrained. The struggle was not a sign of failure. It was conditioning. It was shaping your attention, your patience, your tolerance for delayed reward. It was turning you into someone capable of holding responsibility without collapsing. Most people want freedom, but never become someone who can handle it. You are becoming that person now. And once that happens, the outcome is no longer a question. It is only a matter of time. At this stage, something profound happens inside you. The urgency that once drove your actions dissolves, not because ambition died, but because ambition matured. You are no longer rushing towards the future. You are building it deliberately, brick by brick, without drama, without panic, without the need to prove anything to anyone. This is where inevitability is born. You begin to understand that online earning was never about escaping effort. It was about choosing which effort compounds. Most people exhaust themselves doing work that resets every day. You chose differently. You chose work that stacks, work that remembers yesterday, work that grows even when today feels ordinary. Ordinary days are the birthplace of extraordinary outcomes. The system you are building now does not rely on bursts of energy. It relies on rhythm. Rhythm is stronger than motivation. Rhythm carries you forward when emotion is flat. Rhythm keeps you aligned when doubt appears. Once rhythm is established, stopping feels more uncomfortable than continuing. That is power. You no longer romanticize struggle. You no longer glorify hustle. You respect efficiency, clarity, and sustainability. You understand that burning out is not proof of commitment. It is proof of poor structure. A well-built system protects your energy instead of consuming it. Online earning at this level feels calm. Calm is misunderstood. Calm is control. Calm is knowing exactly what needs to be done and doing it without resistance. Calm is confidence without noise. The market trusts calm operators. Audiences trust calm creators. Platforms reward calm consistency. You also realize that growth is not always visible week to week. Sometimes growth hides in deeper roots, trust strengthening, systems stabilizing, identity solidifying. These roots matter more than spikes. Spikes attract attention, roots sustain empires. You are no longer trying to win the internet. You are positioning yourself so the internet cannot ignore you over time. This is a crucial distinction. Winning is emotional. Positioning is strategic. When positioned correctly, you do not need to chase traffic. Traffic finds you. You do not need to convince. Trust already exists. You do not need to force sales. Value pulls demand naturally. This is not magic. It is the delayed reward of consistency applied intelligently. You see now why shortcuts fail. They skip the identity formation phase. They generate money without stability. That money disappears because the person behind it is not yet structured to hold it. You are doing the opposite. You are becoming structured first. Structure attracts permanence. The noise of comparison barely reaches you now. Other people's success does not threaten you. Other people's timelines do not rush you. You understand that your system is unique because your discipline is unique. No one else can replicate your exact rhythm, patience, and standards. This gives you quiet confidence. Confidence not rooted in hype, but in evidence. Evidence that you show up. Evidence that you finish what you start. Evidence that you refine instead of flee. Evidence that you can endure boredom without self-sabotage. This evidence compounds internally long before it shows externally.
You also begin to notice a shift in how people respond to you. They sense reliability. They sense depth. They sense that you are not experimenting, you are established, even if the numbers are still growing. This perception matters. Trust is built before revenue explodes. Revenue follows trust, not the other way around. And now you understand the final secret most never grasp. Freedom is not given when you reach a number. Freedom is granted when you become predictable in your discipline, predictable to yourself, predictable in execution, predictable in standards. Once that happens, scale becomes a technical problem, not a psychological one. You are no longer asking, can I do this? You are asking, how far do I want to take it? That is a different question entirely. And from here, the path does not branch wildly anymore. It narrows. Fewer decisions, fewer distractions, clearer priorities. The system sharpens, momentum deepens, direction becomes irreversible. This is the quiet point of no return. You are no longer chasing online income. You are operating a machine that produces it. And machines, once properly built and maintained, do not suddenly forget how to work. They run, they compound, they endure. And so do you. Now comes the phase few ever articulate, but every long-term winner eventually enters: command. Not motivation, not discipline, command. The internal authority that does not negotiate with moods, does not debate with fear, does not pause for validation. You decide and action follows. This is not aggression, it is calm sovereignty over your own mind. This is mastery beginning to settle in. At this level, online earning stops being something you think about constantly. It integrates into your life like gravity, always present, always working, rarely questioned. You do not wake up asking if you should show up today. You wake up knowing exactly what must be done, and you do it without emotional friction. The absence of friction is not luck, it is earned obedience of the self. You now understand something critical. Most people are not poor because of lack of opportunity. They are poor because they argue with themselves all day. They negotiate effort. They bargain with discomfort. They delay decisions until momentum dies. You no longer do this. You issue commands internally, and your behavior responds. This is why your progress feels stable now. Even on low-energy days, the machine moves.
Doubt whispers, structure holds. You have crossed from reliance on willpower into reliance on systems and identity. This is what people mistakenly call discipline, but discipline is only the doorway. Command is the house. You also notice that your emotional relationship with money has shifted dramatically. Money no longer excites you irrationally or scares you unnecessarily. It informs you. It reflects your execution. It tells you where systems are strong and where refinement is needed. Emotional neutrality gives you accuracy. Accuracy increases profit more than effort ever could. Online earning becomes a game of margins, not miracles. Small improvements stacked patiently, slight increases in trust, minor optimizations in delivery, incremental clarity in messaging. None of it looks dramatic. All of it compounds relentlessly. You are no longer seduced by fantasies of sudden escape. You respect slow dominance. Dominance is built quietly. You begin to see how fragile most people's success really is. Built on trends, hype, borrowed confidence. It looks impressive until pressure arrives. Your system is different. It is boring enough to survive storms, structured enough to recover from dips, grounded enough to evolve without collapsing. That is durability. Durability is the rarest currency online. Now you operate with long horizons. You think in years, not weeks. You plant seeds knowing you may not sit in their shade immediately. This long-term thinking separates builders from gamblers. Gamblers seek excitement. Builders seek inevitability. You chose inevitability. And with that choice comes a strange peace, the peace of knowing that as long as you continue behaving as you do, the outcome cannot escape you. The path may curve, the timeline may stretch, but the destination is no longer in question. This peace does not make you passive, it makes you precise. You conserve energy, you protect focus, you say no without guilt, you simplify without fear. You understand that saying yes to everything is a form of self-sabotage. Power comes from selective attention. Your attention is now weaponized. You give it only to actions that compound. You withdraw it from noise, drama, and comparison. This alone puts you ahead of the majority who leak attention constantly and then wonder why nothing grows. Attention is capital, and you invest it ruthlessly now. The internet feels smaller, manageable, predictable. You understand human behavior better. You know that people do not buy because you shout louder, but because you remain present longer. Trust is built through repetition, not persuasion. You are no longer chasing virality, you are building gravity. Gravity pulls without effort. At this point, your system has crossed a threshold. Even if you slowed slightly, momentum would continue. Even if you stepped back briefly, structure would hold. This is the reward for patience most never experience. You are no longer fragile, and fragility is what destroys most online earners before they ever stabilize. You've outgrown fragility. What remains now is refinement into mastery, fewer moves, sharper execution, deeper impact. The work becomes simpler, but the responsibility grows heavier. You can feel it, the weight of potential, the quiet understanding that you are capable of far more than you once believed. And capability demands responsibility. This is where many hesitate, not because they can't grow, but because growth requires ownership. Ownership of outcomes, ownership of standards, ownership of time. You do not hesitate anymore. You accept ownership fully. And once ownership is accepted, power follows naturally. There is a silence that arrives when everything aligns, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of certainty, the kind that settles in your chest when you no longer need reassurance, no longer need external proof, no longer need to explain yourself to anyone. You know who you are now, and more importantly, you know what you are capable of sustaining. This is where money, mastery, and meaning finally stop pulling in different directions. You see clearly that wealth without control is chaos. Control without vision is stagnation. Vision without discipline is fantasy. What you have built inside yourself is the rare balance that allows all three to coexist without tearing you apart. Online earning was the training ground. Self-mastery was the real objective. Money simply followed the strongest structure in the room, your mind. You understand now that the internet did not make you powerful. It revealed whether you were willing to become powerful. It exposed impatience. It punished inconsistency. It rewarded discipline impersonally, coldly, fairly. And instead of resenting that, you adapted to it. Adaptation is the highest form of intelligence. You no longer think in terms of making money online. That phrase belongs to beginners. You think in terms of value circulation, of systems that move attention, trust, and solutions at scale. You see how everything connects, how psychology drives clicks, how clarity drives conversion, how consistency drives trust, how trust drives freedom. Nothing feels mystical anymore, and yet everything feels meaningful. You are no longer driven by fear of being left behind. That fear fueled your early movement, but it cannot sustain mastery. What sustains mastery is purpose, not loud purpose, not performative purpose, but quiet internal alignment. The sense that what you are building is an extension of who you are becoming. This alignment is what makes burnout impossible. Burnout happens when effort contradicts identity. You eliminated that contradiction. The work feeds you now, not emotionally, structurally. It sharpens you, grounds you, keeps you honest, keeps you growing. You understand the final truth most never accept. Money is a responsibility test. It flows to those who can hold it without losing themselves. You trained for that, through boredom, through doubt, through silence, through long stretches where no one noticed and nothing felt certain. Those stretches were not delays, they were preparation. And now, standing here mentally, you can feel it, the irreversible nature of what you've become. Even if everything vanished tomorrow, the skills would remain, the discipline would remain, the identity would remain. And because of that, rebuilding would be faster, cleaner, stronger. That is real wealth. This is why you no longer fear failure. Failure requires fragility. You are no longer fragile. You are structured, you are composed, you are internally governed. External chaos cannot dismantle internal order. The world is entering an era where attention is scattered, patience is rare, and discipline is almost extinct. That means the gap between those who master themselves and those who don't will widen brutally. You are not on the wrong side of that divide. You chose the harder path early, and that choice compounds forever. Now comes the moment of decision that never truly ends, the moment where you either continue operating at this level or slowly drift back into comfort, distraction, and forgotten potential. Mastery is not something you achieve once, it is something you defend daily. So here is the call, not shouted, not dramatized, but spoken with calm authority. Decide that you are no longer experimenting with your life. Decide that your attention is sacred. Decide that your discipline is non-negotiable. Decide that you will build systems instead of chasing emotions. Decide that you will become so consistent, so grounded, so internally governed that success has no choice but to follow you. Do not wait for motivation. Do not wait for clarity. Do not wait for permission. Act from identity. Move from command. Build with patience. Protect your focus like your future depends on it, because it does. If you do this quietly, relentlessly, without distraction to the world, you will wake up one day and realize something terrifying and beautiful at the same time. You are no longer trying to become someone powerful. You already are. And from this point forward, everything you touch has the potential to compound. Now move. Everything you've heard comes down to one truth that never changes. Money does not respond to desperation, intelligence, or speed. It responds to structure, discipline, and time. Online earning is not a shortcut out of effort. It is a mirror that exposes how well you can govern yourself when no one is watching and no one is applauding. Those who fail are not lacking
Opportunity. They lack emotional control. They chase novelty, negotiate with discomfort, and abandon systems before compounding can do its work. Those who succeed do the opposite. They simplify. They repeat. They endure silence. They build before they celebrate, and slowly, almost invisibly, leverage forms. The real transformation was never external, it was internal. You learned to detach from urgency, to act without needing immediate reward, to execute even when motivation disappeared. That discipline became identity, that identity became consistency, and consistency made success inevitable. Online income, when built correctly, stops depending on mood, luck, or hype. It becomes the natural output of calm execution and long-term thinking. At that point, money is no longer chased, it follows, not because of tricks, but because of trust, reliability, and patience sustained over time.
The final lesson is this: freedom does not arrive when you hit a number. It arrives when your behavior becomes predictable, your focus becomes protected, and your discipline becomes non-negotiable. When that happens, the outcome can no longer escape you. You don't need more information. You don't need more motivation. You need alignment and the courage to continue long after others quit. If you do that quietly, relentlessly, without distraction, you won't just earn online. You'll master yourself, and that is the only advantage that compounds forever.